Welcome to our new global media talk show. Today is May 4th, 2025. Today we're going to be talking about 2026 Gambian election. Will history repeat itself, or are we headed for a political earthquake? What we know from previous elections. This is the topic of the day, and we have our guest here, Touba Marrie. Touba is a data scientist, and he will give us the numbers and also the rationale behind this past election, and what to expect next election. So, Touba, welcome to the show. But before Touba comes in, I would introduce my co-host, Sam Ceesay. Sam, in Indiana. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank
And
you.
I'm your host here in New York, Momodou Sawaneh. Thank you. Thank you, Touba. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Momodou. It's important. It's nice to be here with you and Sam and other colleagues who are going to join us to talk about the trends in Gambia. This is a very important topic, and the 2026 Gambia election, will history repeat itself, or are we headed for a political earthquake? Well, to answer that question, to some, it is a rhetorical question. Modulia Jalapo, maybe that is a question that answers itself, depending on the people, how people are going to see it. And the subtopic that follows, what we know from previous elections. For you to know if history will repeat itself or if we are heading to a change, then we definitely need to get into what do we know from the past. And knowing the past really helps you informed. It makes you informed to get prepared for the future. If you don't know the political history of the Gambia, how the trends have been going, it might be very difficult for you to predict the future. So if Mamadou allows me, I can share my screen and then we can go over some numbers for everyone to see it.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes. All right, share screen, entire screen. All right, Momodou, I think, yes. Can you guys see the screen right over here?
I'm gonna add it.
Are
Yeah,
you seeing the screen?
yes.
Okay, so we're going to start at what are you seeing? Tell me that. What are you seeing right now?
The chart. We are seeing the chart.
Okay, so this is the 1996 election. So usually I start from that. I was not there at the time of Jaure, but I want us to maybe take a quick look at what happened in 1996 when Jammeh Yuli came in at the time. Lawyer Dabo was there, but also among the people were Hamad Ba and then Sidi Ajada as well for PDOIS. If you look at this chart here, this is the national total for 1996. The electorate was 446,541, and this is the number of ballot that was casted. This box that I'm clicking on, 394,537 was casted out of the people registered, and then these were the turnout is 88%. But if you look at this margin here, the green represents Jammeh. He won 56% of the votes. So that was after the coup d'etat, the first election that was held in 1996, followed by Lawyer Dabo's 36% for the UDP. And you can clearly see that Hamad Ba and Sidi Ajada have 55% for Hamad Ba and 3% for Sidi Ajada. So that tells you Jammeh came in newly. At the time he was with the military junta, and then he becomes, of course, immediately as an incumbent, and he was able to swipe the polls by 56%, and definitely that made him president at that time. But if you even add the rest of the people, Doi, Hamad Ba, and the UDP, Dabo at the time, it just represented the rest. And then the rest out of 100 is still not more than what Jammeh got. Jammeh got 220,011 votes compared to what these others have. So that gave him the seat of power. Just to make something very clear here is that these presentations are done entirely based on the records of the IEC. I am not here to justify that, oh, yeah, election or the numbers are not correct. Also, we will get to that at some point to look at some areas where IEC have been making mistakes in terms of counting and all that. But this presentation is primarily on the numbers and nothing more. So it's not speculative. This is the record from the IEC, and that is what we are presenting to the general public. After 1996, the next election that comes was in 2001. In 2001, previously Jammeh got 56%. Obviously, he drops a little bit, but still that gave him victory. And then if you look at the electors that were registered in the Gambia at the time were 509,301. The percentage turnout is 89%. That represents 457,484. So if you look at this chart here that we see right here, it tells you that Jammeh won again with how many percent? 53%. Dabo in 1996, he got 36%. In 2001, 32%. So because Jammeh is 53%, whoever came after that, if you add the rest of the people, Sirif Diba is here, Lawyer Dabo, you have Siri Jada and Hamad Ba, their total is just 47%, which is, is less than what this one represents. So that also, that what that is telling you, I don't know if you guys have seen, is also what normally people call the power of incumbency. If someone is a president, if they are already in power, if they are already in charge of the military, the police, the resources, and so many other things in the Gambia, in our records, it's always very difficult to remove them from that seat. And so far, this is manifesting. We'll go until where changes happen, and then I will tell you something about those records. So you can see again, Jammeh. And then in 2006, what happened? I think that is what they call, I'm not really sure, they call it the United Front at the time. Jammeh swept the polls by 67%. Electorates registered 670,336. Total ballot cast, wow, 392,685. And then the turnout was how much? Was 58%. And then out of that, Jammeh and the APRC got 264,404, which represents 67%. So there were only two more, Halifa Saleh and Ousmane Dabo, that got just 27 and 6%. So this still has never been enough to give them presidency. I'm referring to the oppositions. When you look at the tourism administrative areas, I just bring in this graph here. You can see this is Brikama area, that is the West Coast. You come to KMC, Janjambure, Basse, Kerouan, Masakonko, and Banjul. The West Coast, the blue one is for Jammeh, and then you can see how much he got from the West Coast. He pretty much almost won everywhere in 2006, and that's what gave him the 67%. All the administrative areas, by total, you can see the graph here. He is longer than the rest. Like, he got everything more than what all these people have. Later, I will take questions, and then we can go over these numbers and see. But I'm just giving just a quick breakdown. Well, come to where? We are now in 2011. Fast forward. I was in grade 10 at the time. So look at what happened here. If you look at these graphs again, the electors registered 796,926. Out of that, the ballot casted is 657,904. Jammeh got 72%. Massive, massive. I think this is the year that they call the United Front. So he got 72% out of the rest. Who were there at the time? This is Hamad Ba, 11%, and Ousmane Dabo, 17%. So we see again, being in power, the same thing over and over again. Jammeh has been swiping the polls. But what happens in 2016? In 2016, we could see, if we look at the national total in 2016, Jammeh got 40%. And then this is Mama Kande, who got 17%, and this is the coalition that got 43%. It was still not easy. The margin wasn't that much. It's just 3% margin. But of course, in 2016, if you look at the raw data, there were areas with some constituencies where the IEC made counting errors. There were some mistakes. Were the mistakes enough to change the outcome of elections? No. They were not enough to change the outcome of election. But in election counting, we always say that the margin of error should always be zero, because when elections are not counted properly, what it can result to. It can result to civil unrest, it can result to commotion, it can result to chaos, and then that is not good for any government, especially election times are very, very fragile moments in every country. So when numbers are counted, they must totally represent the voice of the people, and that is the electorate. And that's what makes it important. So Jammeh has been leading 1996 and 2016. He had a fall down, and 40% and 43 are not really big. If you look at it in actual numbers, so this is the coalition. Barrow, they got 227,704, and APRC with Jammeh got 208,487. Mama Kande got 89,000. If you look at this graph, Mama Kande is a product of Jammeh. I don't know if he once ran as an MP under the APRC, but he is like a subset. He came from Jammeh to have his own party, and then they run. So if Mama wasn't there, I wonder what would have happened. Only God knows. But if you think about it logically, many people believe that if it wasn't for Mama, Jammeh still would have won, because only people who voted for Mama might not vote for the coalition, and even maybe a few percentage of that 10% from Mama joined to this could have given victory to maybe 11%, could have given victory to Jammeh. So 2016 was very crucial. Well, there is something here. I'm not sure if you guys are taking note of that, but I will come back to that quickly when I go to the 2021 is here, the 2021 national elections. We could see what happened. Jammeh left, Barrow came as coalition leader and now as NPP, and what happened? So you could see that he got 53%, and then who comes second was UDP with Adabo 28%, and then after that we have 12% for Mama Kande, and then there is 2% for Isafal. Doi got 4% and 1% for Abdullah Jammeh. I think there were about 5 representatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's about 6. Yeah, there were 6 representatives: NPP, UDP, Isafal, Abdullah Jammeh, Mama Kande, and Halifa Saleh with Doi. So that was our latest election in 2021. I'll say a few things here. I have been saying we can look at this is the national trends in 1996 to 2021. This is the UDP's time, the Jammeh, that is Doi, and that is NPP now. 2016, of course, is not actually NPP. 2016 was a coalition. I can give that another different color. I'll do that. That was a coalition in 2016. But then, of course, with Barrow as president, and you see what happened, 43% to 53%. So that was a 10% increment. If you look at the trends for the UDP in 1996 to 2021, 96 was 35%, 32, then you have 26, and then you have 17 and 27. All these percentages weren't enough, at least according to the IEC, to declare the UDP victors. If you come to Jammeh, of course, he was president until when he fell in 2016, 40% to 43. These are approximations. So the graph gave you 40%, but of course, in actuality, it's 39.65, and then the coalition have 43%. Doi 96 is 2%, then they have 3%, 5%, and then 3% again. So their numbers are really, really small, and these small numbers just can't make you president. I'll say a few things here. From the time of Jawara to date, we only were able to have what we call, I'm coming back here. We only were able to have what we call change of government or change of regime. It depends on what terminology you want to use. It came twice in the history of the Gambia. One was in 1994, when the junta took guns and then removed Jawara at the time, which is illegal in our laws, but that brought in changes, and that is how Jammeh came in. Then Jammeh stayed in power until there was a coalition government against him. These single political parties have not been able to achieve a feat where they will say, oh, this party have done it against the government, or sorry, against the sitting government, and that is the incumbent. They weren't able to do it. 2 times we have changes where through the coup d'etat, which no one is going to advocate for, and through a coalition government. What that tells you is that for Gambia to beat a sitting government, it only came when people came together. They came together, political parties put their differences aside. They came together in 2016, City Gambia as one. They put forward one individual to be the representative of the people against the government of the APRC or that of Drammeh, and then they were able to win. But for all the other years, the all parties have been going solo. You stand alone, I stand alone, we try our chances, it never worked. So when we say, is history going to repeat itself, or are we heading to a political earthquake? If we analyze that, if we want to answer that question through the lens of data, through the lens of history, and through the lens of numbers, what it tells us is history will repeat itself if political parties go solo. That's what the data says. But we can go for a political earthquake if all the oppositions come together and put forward one candidate, one mighty candidate. Then the Gambians who believe in that candidate and that coalition and their principles can sell the agenda for the new Gambia against the government of the NPP under the leadership of President Adama Barrow. But if political parties go solo, whoever they are, looking at these numbers, I personally, backing by numbers, I am not convinced that any individual party can do it against the incumbent. I'll later go through the summaries of those, but for now, I will take a sip of water and allow the co-host and the host to say one or two things.
Thank you, Touba. Thank you. Okay, while you were speaking, I was busy sharing, trying to get everything, other folks to be able to follow the program. And I think Ousman came in, and Famara would join us shortly. But Sam Ceesay is with us. The data that you present are very factual. It looks like uh, for some weird reason, the incumbent has been winning across the board all these years, except when the coalition interjected, which is 2016, based on the numbers. Now, my only worry here is that these numbers are real. Are they real? Are they a representation of the Gambian people? That's number one.
Yeah,
Because
I can. I mean, I can take question after question. If you want, you can ask all. I am happy to answer that.
yes. So
Yes.
the number
So
one
when you,
question is that yes, number one question is you have gathered the data from IEC,
yes.
of course, which the results were based on the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that could be sure that based on those countings and those numbers, Jammeh and the incumbent has been winning, and Adama Barrow as well, right?
Yeah. Yes.
However, are this the representation of our populace? This is the biggest question
Question.
that has
Yes.
been answered. As long as those has not been answered, first of all, I'm asking you that you're gonna give me your answer. The second question is, as long as those ones has not been answered,
Mm-hmm.
then the narrative of this story is not valid, because how are voters recruited? How are voters are this a true representation of the Gambian citizen? And another question is that it's not even based on those numbers, but Gambians has totally been denied across the world, around the world. Okay, there's no political will to give Gambian citizens rights to vote. All of them, which the Constitution says,
Mm-hmm.
and the Supreme Court says that we have the right to vote here in diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
Taking that away from not having that political will since the inception of independence shows that our elections are flawed. Because unless and until we, who contributed the vast majority of the GDP of the Gambia, are allowed to express ourselves and choose our leaders, elections are still seeking.
Yes.
So that is also need to be put into account when we are talking about this. So number wise, that is presented to the IEC. Yes, the proportion that you gave
Yes.
is correct. We know that the elections, the numbers were not twisted. But how do you get those numbers? Is it a true representation of Gambian citizens who are Gambians? in the who have been acquired Gambian citizenship in the right way,
Mhm.
or are these people who were recruited on the borders or other nations to come and vote? So I think that those are areas that you need to lament on.
Y-
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, thank you. I'm going to answer the question, but then what happens here, we all know, is there are so many things involved, and that is, let's assume even if IEC is wrong, that's let's assume that IEC is wrong with their numbers and all the things are happening, but they are the only legitimate body in the country that when they say B, it is. Nothing comes out of it. So, with all the wrongs and everything that might come in terms of election counting, denying orders to vote, and registering people from outside, those things are things that need to be stopped or implemented. What needs to be stopped is people who are not Gambians must not be allowed to participate in the affairs of the Gambia when it comes for us to select our leaders. And what needs to be implemented is that our National Assembly failed us when they failed to pass the bill that is going to ensure that every Gambian who is in diaspora have the opportunity to vote wherever they are. That is what you are talking about when it comes to the real representative of the people. But that is not being done yet. And the reality is that so long that is not done, and other people are coming from outside to come and partake in our elections, when the results are announced, whatever IEC said, it's what is being taken into account. And because that is what is being taken into account, these numbers that are here, for me to say that they are not the real representation of the people, I would have to analyze the potential voter population of the Gambia first. That is, at this time, at a time, let's say in 2021 or 2011, how many potential voters do we have in the Gambia at the time against the people who are going to vote? But then, how would you quickly identify the potential voter population at a particular time? It's not all Gambians, but the people who have registered to vote. Because for you to vote, you are not only Gambian to vote, you are only eligible to vote when you are registered and have a voter's card. Now, if you have a voter's card, that's where we look at the margin of electorates and also the outcome, like the total electorates that are registered, and also we look at the outcome. That is the voter turnout. So when you look at the percentage of the voter turnout, sometimes it is less, sometimes it is more. But if let's say I can give an assumption and say no, I don't really think this is the real representation of the Gambian population, because diaspora is not allowed to vote, and some people believe that there are some kind of people come from outside to vote. But like I said in the beginning, this presentation or these numbers are only the data that came from the IEC and that made the president. The same data that made Jammeh president, the same data, the same final result that made Barrow president twice, and Jammeh, I don't know, on 5 occasions or so. So that is why it is important when we look at these numbers, we know very well that whatever IEC said, and usually that is what comes to fruition. I think it was only in 2021 that the UDP tried to challenge the status quo, but what happened? I think their challenge or petition was thrown out because of a technicality. I'm not a lawyer or a legal puritan. I don't know how those things work, but for sure, IEC, with all their irregularities and all their faults, whatever they declare, even going forward to 2026, is still going to come. It can have faults, it can be wrong. At the end of the day, whatever they say is still going to stand. And whilst that happens, sometimes you can look at it from a perspective that it is sad. I think when people vote, there is a president. I forget who the person is. He said something and is very critical. Elections, if one comes to power, it has to be decided by the electorates and not the election body. So let's say you can vote, the population can vote, but the IEC can still decide otherwise. And how IEC can decide otherwise is when they make mistakes in their counting. Let me reshare my screen. I want to show you something quickly, maybe from 2016. You remember a commotion
Okay,
that,
but before you share your screen, and before
yeah.
any of my panelists comes in and ask, um, you are saying that the
Mhm.
IEC, whatever numbers they get, that's that was determined the election, and that's what is counted, that's what is recognized. The process We're not talking about that. Is that what you clearly
Yeah.
said? I mean, like, so the
Yes,
process
yes. We are
happened.
not talking about it. Yeah, how things happen. We are not talking about the processes here. So I am saying it so far based on our records. I don't know in 2026 if people are going to challenge if something happens. I don't know what is going to happen. But so far, what had happened is that if IEC says B, that's it. Nobody. It was only what I know. I don't know if you guys know of anyone who has done this. It was just in December 2024, this past December, and let me just say January 2025. I am the one who went out to the media and say IEC have been making mistakes. Other people have been speculating. I said IEC have been making errors in their elections, in their election countings. I do not only say they have been making errors. I was able to show people which constituencies IEC have made counting errors. These counting errors could also have torn the election results otherwise. But so far, the records that we have seen, if you tally all the errors, that could not have done. But because there are errors already, who knows? Maybe there were even bigger errors that they have they've saved.
Okay, those errors also we need to note them, because if at all those errors are are big enough, like let's say registration, they did registration that are not within the time of registration, and some machines were taken to some other places. All those things we need to know. We need to know. I think moving forward too, there is also important to analyze the process too. Somebody need to follow up and then
Can you see the screen here?
yeah, we can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll tell you, this was in 2016. You remember when Drammeh said something like people must go, the county must be done again because he think there were problems. So these are just few highlights that I made. Any area that you see in red, there was a mistake. So I'll tell you this. This is the electorate, like the registered. This was the ballot cast for Serekunda West. The turnout is 53%. But when you look at what the coalition have, and then what Drammeh have, and then also what can they have, does not tally. This is the invalid vote, which is not account. There was a difference between the ballot that is casted and the total given to the presidential candidates. When you say ballot casted, that means the total of Drammeh, the total of Kande, and then the total of
All
the
the all
coalition must be
yeah,
equal. They
yeah.
must be equal. So where there are differences, if I add 12,000 plus 10,000 plus 2,000 something, what that gives me is by 100 margin from this ballot. You can add it right away if you want.
So
So
that
you,
so that means that error is 100.
yeah, that is 100 of a margin of 100 votes. This is a margin of 95. This is a margin of 20. This is a margin of 107. This is a margin of 78, 7. So there are other margins that I do not even highlight. Even this 4 is a margin. I just put a few in red just to show people the mistakes that have been happening. That is just this 2016. I can go to previous years from 1996 onward. There were a series of mistakes that had happened. So that also tells you. So that's why I'm saying the results that have been announced as the final results is what I'm showing to the people. So my conversation is strictly in line with the information from the IEC. I am neither in support nor against it. I am just presenting what came from the IEC. But also they made mistakes. So in real sense, presidential candidates, when there is a final result, the presidents should come from the verdict of the electorate and not from the verdict of the IEC. The IEC is only the people's representative. They are only our spokespersons. They are there to represent the realities on the ground by not making any mistakes. Of course, to err is human, but in this case, maybe a single error, but series of constituencies. That is really alarming. But I'm not here to judge whether it was deliberate or it was a technical error or efficiency or maybe something. Many people will say, oh no, ikataule, kadung yalo neko ni mistake ko kada jama jama membe siri wala ka ganye. And they wala ka deba maybe don't have ko ye bribe le ye jo fende la wala na yo mistake wala. So that is why, to me, whenever election results are ning results findita, immediately people should not just go and look at the totals. You must go through all the numbers in all constituencies to make sure that it matches. Because those errors is what usually culminate in the total outcome.
So in other words, mulka for men ko yung number sol sunya ye twist le you're upside down or whatever, all those are bogus.
Yeah, they are bogus unless you have an evidence. So if who he who alleges must prove. So if you are telling me, Koye Sunyarol, what is your
Oh
evidence?
UDP la moli ye fenne dile coffee ye fenne dile sinota or something like that. All those
Man,
are bogus.
there are so many stories of those. We don't have to go there.
So okay.
We can
Before Sam and Ousman comes, I just want to say this. There's a common saying that elections are not won during the election day.
yeah.
Elections are won well before the election day. So, and then we have seen voters' cards that were born during Jammeh's time on that issue, and those voters' cards were considered as fraudulent voters' card, and that cost Jammeh some votes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, yeah, I had that story. I had that story very well. So I had this. It's like on 300,000 voters card. That meant if that wasn't being burned, if the ABRC bureau was not set on fire, what was going to happen is that Jama would come and add 300,000 to what he have. We can demonstrate that if what is here already, if we add 300,000 to it to the 2016 outcome of Jama, of course he is going to win by a big margin. But also the 300,000 something, I will tell you, the 300,000 must fit into the difference between the voter outcome and that of the total electoral register.
But Jammeh himself admitted. He said, "Where is the 300,000?" When he refuted the results,
Oh,
he
okay, okay.
admitted
Well,
where it is. That's when he said he was not gonna go until ECOWAS came. But he asked for that. But that
oh,
was
okay.
not brought up.
Maybe I lost that part. I might have to watch the video again. I do know in 2016 there were blatant. I mean, I would not call it blatant, but there were errors in numbering. There, I just saw you a few constituencies where
Yeah,
the
yes. But those errors were not significant enough.
No, those
What he
ones are not significant enough. What we are saying is that they must be avoided at all costs. So the
Yes,
election, if you want a president, you can be proud of yourself and say, I won elections where the outcomes of the election were decided by those who vote and not those who count votes. So those who vote are the
right.
electorate. That is, the people voted for me. But now, if IEC mess up, now the counters of the vote, those who can't vote, makes the decision instead of those who vote. So it's in two folds. You can vote, you can do all your things, and be will. Oh, now we are gonna win. Then the person who is counting, it's like you play your game, the referee blew the whistle otherwise, but you wouldn't know
That's true.
because the vote, these votes and everything comes together and announcements are done. That is why I don't actually believe in on-spot counting. You see the last
You
two
believe on
elections, one
spot
in
counting, or you don't believe in it?
no. So okay, when I say I don't believe in it, like we have to define what I meant by belief here. So because someone said elections are counted on spot doesn't mean that it cannot be cheated, because it's not on spot announcement, it's on spot counting. So if it is like you remember recently the Masembe and the Banjul thing. I did not follow the Banjul election, but the Masembe, because of the brouhaha and all the people involved, everyone was keenly listening. You saw that the media was there. They were counting and announcing on spot. The records have been taken right there. That is different from counting was done there on spot, and then they do the tally and all the records are being announced at the center, right? It's different. The announcement everyone saw. So if we want to be transparent and fair going forward, it has to be that everywhere where the counting is done, if you want to implement in reality the on-spot counting, it has to be the votings are closed, everyone is there, the media comes, the counting is done, and the numbers are taken right from there, and you don't even have to announce it. Already people know it. That's going to be fairer than on-spot counting, put things together, and at the end of the day, you go and announce it somewhere. Who knows what happened between the lines before the announcement, the final announcements are done.
I think that's where we're moving at towards this coming election, because most of these political parties, I wouldn't say most, but at least UDP is starting to is thinking about those kind of things along the line, where they can have each and every voting station some kind of transparency in terms of either recording or kind of like online activity that will be readily available after every counting, which I see other countries like Liberia did. But that will really help, because that you tally those with IEC, then there's no question, because they have to match. But our problem here is that, which you cannot answer now, is that elections are not won the day of the election, because if you look at Gambian numbers, this last election, definitely the numbers look like inflated somehow. almost over close to 1 million people voted, and in a country, in any country, even half of the population, even like less than half of the population don't vote, because you have children, you have people who are not children, elderly, and then a lot of the population who are not voting. Only the legit ones vote. So if you, even in US, if you look at the whole population in US and you
Yeah.
look at the percentage, you will know. Do we lose him?
No, no, no. I'm here. I'm just plugging my phone in.
Okay, so you will know that half of the population don't vote in any country. So the numbers are somewhat inflated. How were
Yes.
they inflated? Where registration done that we are not legit. This is what I think you, as a data scientist, and others who are really interested in our country's development, will have to look at the upcoming election, because unless and until somebody goes onto those data of all registered voters and trying to verify their legibility, you know, then our election cannot be fair. And of course, having to omit diaspora voting is even making it even more, so that our elections are not fair. Because diasporas are human beings, they contribute to the GDP of the Gambia, they have to be counted. Senegalese are doing it, other nationals are doing it. So there's no political will for that. So all I want to say is that what we need to do as a data scientist, let's go after the process. Next step, counting what has already been counted. Of course, the IEC are not fools. They're not gonna come and put something that could be verified by looking at their data and then say, "Oh, you made a calculation run here. Oh, you messed up here. You're going to jail." They're not gonna do that.
Well, but then in the previous years, they still could not hide it. That's what I was saying. However much they try to hide, I was still able to find errors in the calculation. So
Right,
maybe they were even.
but the errors are not significant enough to make
Yeah, but then it should be avoided.
argument.
That's what I mean. It could be that there are even bigger margin of errors, but they try to suppress it so much so that just God just blindfolded them that they could not see other things that people have to find out at the end of the day. Because even like I don't know what the electoral law says or the constitution said about, but for me, if elections are not accurate, then something must be done about it. Because the sitting president is not, the numbers that gave him that power is still not the right representation of the people.
But how can you revise that when you
But
know?
it depends. It's the laws that will reverse that. It's not the individuals. If the law says so, then people can follow up and say, no, but this is what our election laws or this is what the
But there is
constitution says.
in anything there's a room of error. There's a margin of error.
Yeah, but then the margin of error must be defined. It must be defined at minimum of, if there's 100,000 or 100 votes, okay, fine. But if there's, let's say in any election where the margin of error is more than 10,000 votes, then you cannot rely on that election. It's not
Yes,
because the margin of error must make up for the.
but
For
what
me,
was
it
the
has to
margin?
be 100%, at least
What was the margin of error for
99.9% correct.
What was the margin of error for 2020? This one that we did, 2021.
2021, the errors were not reflected in the data that was presented.
So there was no error.
Well, according to the data, yes. According to what they give us. So I always answer based on what is given to us.
So do you think those people will give you something you could find error on?
They were giving us things that we could find errors on. But where the errors were, today we are talking about election outcomes. If you also look at the registration, there were so many malpractices in the registration that were reflected in the registration database of 900 and something thousand. The IC registration have timelines for every constituency. They have timeline for in terms of dates and timing, like morning to a particular time. But you could find times that people are registered at night. You could find time that people are registered outside the daytime.
Those are illegal, though.
Yeah, that is illegal. But like we can all, I'm sure people were aware of that. So I don't know what political parties or people are. They might have done something about it, but our courts. You know what happened when you go there. So
can you have this data presented to the to opposition party for them to look at?
Some are aware of it. Yes, at some point, like doing it will take a lot of my time. If they pay me to do that, yes, I will gladly do it.
As a citizen,
yeah, as a citizen, yes, I will do it.
Can we all put our hands together for this to be presented in details? That way, these areas that were
So,
gray.
so let's do something, Mr. Sawaneh. You having a global media and with all your cohorts, put something together. Give it to me. Let me do the real findings and bring everything together, and we can present it anywhere. We can go to the United Nations and present it, the IMF, the Gambia, anywhere. I'm happy to do that.
I
Give
think
me the whole.
Sam will be on board with this, and Famara, because this is for the nation to rescue our country. We have to do anything possible, and if we have somebody here who can decipher some of this information, at least we hand over to the stakeholders.
Yeah,
And
give me a project in that area. I'm happy to deliver.
okay, so
Because all
Mhm.
these things I'm presenting to you, this is my voluntary work. I do this. Like I will take 2, 3, 4 months to do this thing, to to go on this research. So it takes a lot of my time as a young student, but also as a family man. So
No, we really appreciated this, and then I think this is a project that we can undertake because again this is for as we are here in this platform educating our folks and also our Gambian people. The idea is to empower our people, and then since we are facing the election year, anything that need to be deciphered, anything that need to be uncovered for the country to be well represented in this upcoming election, we will do anything in our power to do that. Yeah, but definitely this is something we can walk through, and I think of this show, I will talk to Sam, Ceesay, and Famara and others who will be probably joining hands to do that. But Tuba, that's one of the areas that I think we should work on.
yeah, definitely, it's an important and critical area.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I will let my co-host Sam to jump in if he can speak. Sam, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, I'm outside now, heading inside the basketball court here. But this is a very important topic, a very important discussion here. And I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Tuba here. Tuba, thank you so much for
You're
your
welcome.
time and the time you dedicated to put all of this together. This is voluntary work that you just did here. And I think it gave Gambians a lot of insight to what had happened in the previous elections. I think I want to concentrate more on the upcoming elections to see what we can do to make sure that everything that we do um, really pays for it, really comes out to be true and transparent. That is very important. So I'm going to have to pause here for a bit. Let me pause the thing.
If you are not in an area that you can speak up, I can give you a couple of minutes, then you can come back. Yeah. Okay, Tuba, let's move. Usman just I think Usman just come.
Usman disappeared.
Sam, if you are not in an area that you can speak, I can just give you like few minutes and you gather your thoughts and you come back. All right. So moving forward, this data is very important. Now, have you since you have presented this data, have you getting any feedback, positive or negative?
Yeah, yeah, of course. So I spoke about this. There were a lot of followers in the Gambia. So I tell you, I went to Kerfatu first to talk about this and present the graphs and so on. And after that, I went to Peter Gomez. And I've been following Coffee Time. I do all the time. And Peter sometimes will say what I say, that a young data scientist came here and this is what he said. And some of the important trends that I've discovered where that 1 second, some of the important trends that I've discovered is what we call the power of incumbency and the, let's say, the opposition performance. So I said a lot of things about the opposition performance which some opposition don't like, and then that was my point number 4. I said UDP under Usainu Dabo has been a consistent opposition force but struggled to challenge the incumbents effectively. And in 1990, you could see that Dabo secured 35% of the votes in 2001, 32, 2006, 26, 2011, 17, and 2021, 27. But this is still far behind Barrow's 2001 victory of 53%. So I spoke about that. So when Peter put that to opposition parties, especially the UDP, because they are the biggest by all indications and numbers when it comes to the opposition leadership, and tell them that I said the numbers they've been having is not enough from the IEC. What is their reaction to that? Normally, some will say, oh, no, I think Dr. Lamin Mane, Mr. Mane of the UDP, they are admin something for the diaspora. He said that my analysis were wrong, and then he said a lot of things. But I think that conversation ended there because I made a rebuttal against his remarks in a 5 minute deliberation at the coffee time. I went back. I am someone who is very firm in my research and my statements. When I say something, I am basing it on data. Here I've been saying a lot of things, and I always say, according to the numbers from the IEC, this is not my numbers. The analysis I have done, you can always check if you want to do your own analysis, but they are strictly to the numbers. They don't react very well to it because I say something sensitive, and that is, I said, based on these records, the opposition parties cannot win when they go solo. Their chance of winning individually, which has never happened, if we go by the records, is zero. But if I'm lenient with them, they have 99% faith and 1% chance. So it's fate that is keeping you. You've done something, it doesn't work. You've done something, it doesn't work. You join a coalition, it works. You've done it again, it doesn't work. So the coalition works, but the individuals never work. So that is more like, if I want to try it again, only God can answer the question of will. I don't answer those questions. Because in English, we say will is stronger than salt. When I say will, I'm saying with utmost certainty that something is going to happen. I don't have those powers and that knowledge. But I can do an analysis and base it on numbers and records. And if we go by numbers and records, is that DOI, UDP, Mama Kande, and all other parties have never been able to do it against a sitting government when they go alone. But when they join forces, we saw what happened in 2016. So that's what I've said, but the reactions were mixed. Some appreciate it, some don't. But that is not my problem. I don't really take into account. When I'm presenting, I take emotions out of it. I just present the facts and I say things just the way they are, and the number says, the number shows what I have said, and that is what how things are. So I think if Gambians are really ready to challenge Barrow in 2026, then a united front against Barrow will be the most formidable way. But if like other parties think they can do it by running solo, let them try it. It's not my problem. All Gambians want is a better Gambia. All Gambia want is a Gambia where everyone is represented. All the Gambians want is a Gambia where the party is not one-sided. When we say party baby one-sided, like, it's only the Barrow and his cabal who are benefiting. We have so many people dying. The 99 children that died because of that that mismanagement in that medicine or whatever happened. We have seen so many corruption scandals in that country. You've seen that only maybe a section of people living in Banjul. When I say people living in Banjul, I'm not referring to Banjulians. I'm referring to the State House and the cabinet. Only those people are enjoying what belongs to the whole lot. The 12 million, 8 million, or whatever million you say spending on the land cruisers, per vehicles, and so on. These things could be used to benefit the whole majority. These people are there to represent us, but instead they are not doing that. They are just representing themselves. I still find it unfathomable, unthinkable, and undefined when millions could be spent on a minister's vehicle, a director's vehicle, a CEO's vehicle, or somebody from State House in the name of the president or another person, when the mass majority in the villages of Fonyi, in Basse, in NBR, and other places are dying. They can't even afford clean water, no constant electricity. The roads are even not good if you go down the main roads. A lot of mess is happening in that country, but the executive that are our representative, they are eating the money and saying that there's no money. But you are aware of all the scandals that is coming from the country. Every time, in millions and millions are being lost. How do you dare to say that you are representing the people? These are some of the things that made me go mad. But the politicians have an option. The aspiring candidates, to me, they have to come together. If they don't come together, Barrow is still going to go with the victory. So, at least according to our records.
Right. So this is the true statement. And 2026 has shown that a coalition works against sitting government if they come together and then resolve the difference. So what do you think happened 2026 that was not happening? Because coalition has been
no, you mean 2016?
Sorry, 2016. What happened? So
well, what happened is
no. Wait a minute. What I'm coming, because the talk of coming together was mentioned. It has been happening. It's been happening even in Atlanta. They came together. They started to do it. It was not successful. What made it successful 2016?
Well, what made it successful is an easy answer, right? I'm not going to speculate. Let's speak. I'm only going to speak about what I saw happen. What had happened is that people came together. The parties that came together. It was only Mama Kande who did not come, and actually, I think that was a blessing in disguise. So he was there to be the kingmakers. If not for Mama Kande, who knows what would have happened? What happened is that people came together and then they said, enough of Jammeh's 22 leadership is okay. He was there for 22 years and people saw that as, for so many reasons. For Jammeh has done good, but also bad. So I think people generally, nobody wants bad to be done to them. The disappearance of the people and all the things that have happened. People appreciate the development agendas that he brought in the country, but human lives are also, they are actually the number one important thing in every state. So when people fear so many things happening, then they casted out Jammeh, but they came together, right? So I don't know what your question meant, as in maybe if
Why
that is
was
too
it
political,
difficult? Why was
that's
it
not my.
difficult? Why was it difficult for people to come together previously?
Yeah, that's a question for politicians. I'm a scientist, a data scientist, so I keep my communication to numbers. Maybe Sam or someone else would want to come in there, or
Okay, you didn't
yourself.
want to. You didn't want to go there. You didn't want to go there. Okay, fine.
No, I keep my communication to
Okay,
numbers.
okay, that's fine. That's fine because you're not a politician. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Sam come in now. Because the reason why I'm asking that, because in order for that same coalition or same parties to come together, something that happened 2016 has to happen for them to agree to come together. That was not happening prior before 20,
No, no,
because
I
it
don't
looks like
necessarily think so. But it depends on what you mean. A lot of mess happened in 2016 for this thing to happen. I don't pray that to happen in 2026. People just have to see the good for the Gambia and come together.
yeah,
Solo
because
Sankem
because because
unfortunately
because
lost his life. That also
one
brought
thing
people
one
together.
thing I
That
know
Mhm,
one thing I know was that 2016
mhm.
they agreed to pick anyone they agree to
Yeah.
lead them.
Yeah,
That so that
I will say a few things
even Touba,
on
you would have been if they pointed you out.
Mhm.
The political will for opposition to come together was so powerful that even if they pick Touba or Sam Ceesay, uh, or a stick, a standing stick, they will go after that and then come together to take Jammeh. Do they have the same kind of will
will at the
still?
moment at the moment I think the will is also getting stronger. There is always a factor, a unity, a factor that unites people, and I think everyone wants a better Gambia.
But
If
UDP is think that they are the biggest party, and then they
I
have the
don't I
capability.
don't think they think they are the biggest party. They are the biggest opposition party.
But
They
no,
don't
no, the
have to think
biggest
about
party
it.
means not even opposition wise, but they think they are the biggest party who can actually unseat any president.
No,
I
but
think
then
that's so.
UDP going solo have not been able to do it.
But
At
they
least
still believe that they can do.
according to the numbers from the IEC, they have not been able to do it.
But they
So
believe that they
I
can do.
think normally those are on assumptions, but the reality says otherwise, right? So you can say I can do it, but if IEC blew the final whistle and you didn't do it, so what happens? What happens is that whoever the IEC declared as victor, that person becomes the president.
Okay, Sam, do you have anything to ask?
Yeah. Let me say a little bit here because I'm in the court here with this high school here. So pretty soon it's going to get noisy here, and then I will be also another call, my hometown call in a little bit here, about 1:30 my time. So what I wanted to say here is, like I started, Tuba, thank you so much for the data analysis that you did and what you presented. I think before I go further, what I want to say to people and all the viewers to understand is is just like Tuba is the messenger, in America they say don't shoot the messenger. So I don't want people. I'm just trying to say this that so people understand that what Tuba is presenting is the data from IEC. Whether that data is accurate or not is yet to be determined, but Tuba is presenting based on those data. So based on that data that he has, the presentation there, I think is pretty good. And we all know there's always been a lot of noise around there. So I would say that IEC, what I would say that is that IEC's data has noise. right? What they say, analysts will say noise. There is noise in that data, and I strongly believe there is noise in that data. Meaning, there are irregularities, there are things that went wrong, and there are things that were not accurate, but yet they reported what they reported. Whether that is correct or not, people have everybody has their own judgment on that, right? So what I wanted to say also is I personally don't believe in the accuracy of IEC's data. I think it represents all these past elections. Okay, so I don't believe in it. But what do we do from here moving forward? I think my advice would be is Touba mentioned this, and Sawaneh mentioned this too, and this is something I have said before 2016 or around 2016 election time in 2021, and that is if we have on the spot counting, we should also be doing an on the spot announcement. It get counted right in front of the media. It gets on the on the news right away. It gets announced right away, rather than getting the counting done. And some people are looking at other numbers, and some people may be forging numbers. Some people are maybe trying to manipulate information before it gets to IEC. Then IEC the people, and whatever they announce, of course, legally is the rule, becomes the rule. So I think if we do the on the spot counting and announce it right there for everybody to know, while you have witnesses, not only our media but international witnesses all standing, and the correct and accurate data gets announced there, I think that's when we will have free and fair elections. That's my thought. That's when we will have that. Until then, it will be difficult, and we all need to fight for that. We all need to encourage and push for 2026 elections to be on the spot counting and on the spot announcement. Then IEC can come up with, the final announcement. But at least at that point, everybody should already know who won at what constituency. I think that's what's considered fair and free and fair. So, that's my take on it. And unfortunately, I'm running out of time here, but I just wanted to add that to this. And I can't thank Touba enough for really doing this voluntary work and putting this data together and analyzing it to the people and for the people. And what data does tell you is data is data. Data is to be analyzed. Data is to be reviewed, and then for people to take action. So what we've seen in this data, anything that's inaccurate or anything that's questionable, is now up to all the politicians and the people to take it seriously and use that information to take action. Actions that can be taken to prevent any irregularity from happening from 2026 moving forward. That's all I wanted to add to it. Thank you, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your wonderful thoughts. I think we are almost at the end of the hour. Touba, I know this is a lot that you came up with in terms of this election analysis and educating our followers and, of course, Gambian people, especially the opposition party. I think everybody knows in the Gambia that um, the power of incumbency is a driving force, and then it has reflected on your data, I believe, and also it is something that we still haven't have anything to stop that, because the opposition is always giving incentive. During the election, even Nisol Dila Mola, before Dila Mola, Manol, everything. Just to, some people even they give them cash money, pray katofai, kafo, convince kafo opposition boka fenki no moe and all of that, and then they also blindfold our our voters by telling them that everything that they do, that government is doing it, not knowing that taxpayer money are really the one that they're spending. The same money that you contribute on your taxes are the same money that comes to you in those road infrastructure, those developmental projects, most of them. Although there are some outside aids, which Gambia should really try to stay away from that, because those come with costs. I mean, some repercussions. But Anytime a politician do something they think is their willpower or they magically did that. Jammeh used to think like he got money from God, and all of those bogus ideas, you know, and supernatural powers, never be poor and all of that. So this is all things that make our people go and vote for the incumbents. They believe that Mansa Mumansa, the Mansa so all these religious philosophies that they also incorporate, kind of, this man going there, getting paid in the back, coming and say, and from the prophet that time will become Mansa son. It's different. It's different time, different eras. Can compare. Now, my point here is that, to give us a final overview, with your analysis, which you did a great job, like Sam said, to even have to sit down and go over Gambian election results and analyze it and bring it out. I commend you as a good citizen, as a patriotic citizenship right there. You need a medal of honor for that. And we really appreciate you having in this platform, which is a civic engagement platform for the entire, Gambia and the globe. So I just wanna say this. I don't have any further questions because you probably answered most of the areas, because my area in my concern is the process. But now the process, we cannot do anything about that, because again, the politicians themselves has to really look at how they can chase that and see who are voting. Are they really people who are supposed to vote? And I know that will take some resources, that will take some time, and then that will take some political will. This will also tap into diaspora vote, because that is a huge, that will be huge for the opposition as well. So I think at this point, you know, this election coming next year is a lot of time for the entire, UDP and other, as other
Opposition parties.
parties to come together, look at their differences, and say our country is not going to the right direction. We need to team up. Let's forget about difference. Let's forget about who's going to lead us. Because yeah, it's important to pick a good leader, but in terms of crisis, first of all, come together first. Then you figure the good leader. I mean, Barrow was in that same circumstance. They came together and they picked Barrow. They gave us Barrow, which is a disaster. I mean, as we
No, but then Barrow did not fulfill the promises. I
yeah,
think that
no,
was
no,
the
it was a
issue.
political disaster having to pick Barrow, because Barrow himself don't say he has no knowledge. He's depending on people. Now he's depending on Ramper's people. If he had stayed with the right people, we would have been somewhere. But those also people also were infighting themselves, trying to grab the power. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of thing confusion. But again, this time around, I hope when they choose, when they first of all, let's pray they come together, and I hope when they choose somebody
Yeah,
like
they're
Touba,
coming together. Yeah, they're coming
somebody
together. Now.
somebody who has a conviction for the country, not like somebody who has a conviction for their pocket, or to be a manipulator, or to be staying in power forever. So I think anytime I pray that person be having conviction and steadfastness, and be able to stay principled and not be corrupted by the people around you. Just like Burkina Faso's president, if you are corrupted by the people around you, you will never do anything. If you want to stay there forever, you will never do anything. But if you have a conviction to rescue your people, grow what you eat, export, goods, and then make people, do provide them what they need to be able to produce your own stuff, and then be able to feed your own. First of all, feed your own people is number one. Then you come
Yeah.
to good medical facility, and then you come to infrastructure. But you don't
Mhm.
go and build infrastructure, empty elephants in projects, and then don't have anything, and people are hungry. How they gonna, and you are importing? Don't make any economic sense. So we
Yeah.
need somebody with a brain to lead our nation. And hopefully 2026 is the 2026 we will have that, because this one there right now, and then this government, trust is a no is a non-progressive government, non-progressive. I, I,
Yes.
I am on record on that. It's non-progressive, and the evidence are there. So I want to give you the floor to definitely, lead us through, and then give us, our viewers, your final thoughts. But we will have you here again, definitely, to work on other areas as well, other logistics. Yeah.
Yes, Usman, thank you. On a final note, I will just
No,
say a
it's
few
Momodou. It's
points.
not Ousman. No Momodou.
Sorry.
You say Ousman. I say Momodou.
Oh yeah, all of you, everyone here.
Oh, okay, that's right. I thought you said Ousman. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, no. Momodou.
Yeah.
Yes, just a few points to note for future elections will be number one is the opposition unity. The opposition's fragmentation, like in 2021, only benefited Barrow. So future opposition success may depend on forming a united front, and that is what we are talking about. So if they see the Gambia, not all of them are going to be president at the same time. Only one person is going to be called president. So all the aspiring candidates must know this. And I know they know it. So I think it's better for them to come together and see Gambia as a unit and then save us from the kleptocracy that we are having in the country. And then the youth and urban vote as well. With let's say the KMC and West Coast with their urban population, mobilizing youth and urban voters will be really, really crucial. But they must also be told about the future that Gambia can get in terms of it. If you look at other countries, they are far ahead of us. So Senegal just have a new leadership and we know where they are. Burkina Faso barely 3 years ago, we know where they are heading to. And the Gambia since 2016, after the departure of Jammeh, it looks like we are going in the backward direction. The economic and social issues as well. So addressing economic challenges and social inequalities will likely dominate future campaigns. So I hope people take that into account as Gambia grapples with agriculture in terms of food. You talk about it. Okay, infrastructure is nice, but if you are only having the main highways being good, the feeder roads have to be as well, because those things are what are calling the message in the country. Electoral reforms, ensuring transparency and fairness in election will definitely be critical in terms of maintaining public trust. Just what Ousman said, I'm saying Ousman, what Sam said actually, it's not just the on-spot counting. Announce it on spot. Why are you counting and then waiting for another time to announce? What are you thinking between the time of counting and announcement? What are you planning to do? Count it, you have the records, tell us in front of the media. That is what we call free and fair. The election cannot only be free, they must also be fair. Like people say, oh, they are free. Yeah, we know about that. Are they fair? I don't know. So let's put both into consideration. Free, yes, but also fair. And count it in front of the media and announce it in front of media. Don't just go to IEC in front of media and try to read from papers. We do not witness the counting. It is about time the voters, the electors also witness what they put into ballot and how that is counted. Because that way, we're only in that way we are going to stop the speculation. Oh, for ya ketene for ya dundi jana wotije. Men keta carte boxo kono ay kondi mol be nyala. Atekela ko ya fonyele karla fonyindo hani aketete fo nyala. Or the records are in the media. That is not going to be manipulative. It has to be live. We have so many media groups in the Gambia now, GR3S and so many others. I mentioned GR3S because they are the national owned. The rest of the private entities, the government can work with them, and then they can show us how counting and the announcements are going to be done. Only then we can justify the on-spot counting processes. Only if it is also announced on spot. So I will leave you with that. There is a lot to be said about the Gambia going to 2020.
I just want to inject you one. I just want to inject you one more thing about the on spot. Not only would they have to have media coverage, but they could also have I don't know, like each polling station, the oppositions can also have routers whereby they have their online IEC on their own, and then while they will be uploading any the right real-time results and videos of the counting. Because if you can hold the polling station, you have routers there and then connected to their laptops and phones, and then they have their own online IEC kind of center, different from the our IEC. Okay, these two parallel IEC would collaborate because everybody is there in each polling station. They were counting, they were taking videos, and they are uploading.
Yeah, actually, that happens. That happens actually. So Momodou, it does not happen in formality, but it does happen. All opposition parties, they have their representatives who writes. As soon as the countings are done, you could see in the council election that happened. All the oppositions were there. Once the counting is being done by IC in their presence, they all write it right away.
And right, take a video record it, and then put it at their own center. Whereby That is real-time access online to see the tally of anything that is coming in. I'm telling you, this is a system that works because what happened is that clarify because there cannot be a mistake. If that is reported, IEC reported, then it tallies. Then we know no issue. But if somebody is in Badibu Suwarekunda and then they're doing they are doing election counting there, and then they do it without no witness, like without no media, without no online recording or whatever you have that could be uploaded and then will show us a proof. Then they come and say this other one has this, other one has that. Then that's why they say there's a we don't know what happened in that polling station. So I think it's about time. How many polling stations are in the Gambia? Is it more than 200?
Maybe. I mean, if I would have, I can check the IEC website, but we do have a lot. I mean, those things can be that should not be a problem.
That should not be a problem.
The polling
No. So go if all of us put our resources there, our mouth where our distance where our money where our mouth is, and we tackle that, and we tackle the process about the voters too. We scrutinize every citizen. If it is 1 million, somebody has to spend money and somebody has to spend time to look at this and scrutinize. Touba is a citizen of the Gambia, and he is voting. Where is his birth certificate? How did he get to become a citizen? It's a lot of work, but the opposition has to spend money. They have to spend money and resources to look at the government and then scrutinize everything that they've done. Like they should have been even hiring somebody like you for realistically to be able to go after this information. And they let them use this information and then make sure that they hold the government accountable so that there's no room to steal this election. Because I'm telling you, elections are not one where the votes are happening nowadays. They are won well
yeah,
before.
they are won in advanced preparation and so many other things. But then, yeah, well, hopefully we'll come back to talk more about that. I think we are
Exactly, because we are in this together, and in order to rescue our country, to be well represented, as we want, and eradicate all this speculation. Because if people love Barrow, and then he hasn't violated any rules, then so who are we to say he's not going to be our president? But if he is really manipulating and then using all state resources and then do illegal registration or registration that are not the people are voting who are not citizens, then we have the right to go after that, because we want to Gambian wills, people's will, to be reflected. And then things that we do in this platform are really a sensitization that I believe during the election, from now up to election time, will help the citizen to really decide who they should be voting with. But I just want to inject that there. But
Thank you so much.
finish it up, and then we will definitely have you another time.
Yeah, sure. Pretty much that is all from me for today. I was just giving a run of what I think would be important points, and the most important thing is the unity of the opposition parties. And then all aspiring candidates must know that they are not all going to be president in 2026. Only one person will be president. It could be Barrow if the opposition don't come together, and it can be someone else. So if the interest, like they claim and always advocate for, is for the Gambia, then they should not have any problem in taking one person to lead them. Whoever that person will be, well, the politicians will decide that when the time of coalition coming together comes into effect. And with that, thank you, Momodou, for having me here. I hope to join you another time to talk about it.
Thank you. And guys who are viewing, share the link. We put it on the chat, on the comment section, and definitely follow us with more election and election update. This is an election year coming up, and definitely Touba, thank you so much. You are an inspiration to many young folks out there. So we really count on you. Definitely. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.